This is Whitey Willauer, and this is the latest edition of Front Up, and I got a great guest here today, Jamie Ranney. You, the beautiful,
handsome,
the handsome. I knew I'd get that right.
Okay.
You're also a triathlete?
Occasionally.
I thought you were riding a motorcycle last year.
Well, during the race I was, yeah.
You weren't racing?
No.
How come?
It's way too complicated. As someone who's run these types of events before, you are, I'm sure, well aware that you can't just simply abdicate your responsibilities to other people. You have to actually pay attention and manage things.
Unless you're really up the ladder and controlling things.
Well, someday, Whitey, I hope to reach that pinnacle.
Now, do you have this televised as you go along?
We have filmed the races for the last couple of years. Yep. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of footage archived. But yeah. we haven't really put it out there as, like, you know, the special edition DVD or anything yet.
Which channel do you put it over?
Well, we put a couple videos together that we just put out promotional stuff for the triathlon. So they're really just on the website, which is acktri.com.
Okay.
But maybe you should tell people what it is first, because I don't think they...
What, a triathlon?
No, we didn't get to the triathlon.
Okay, let's talk about the triathlon.
Right.
Your triathlon or the triathlon?
I call it the triathlon because I don't consider it to be mine.
Okay.
So the Nantucket Triathlon we started 4 years ago, and I started it with a friend of mine, Bill Burnett, who's a college buddy who runs a couple of races off island, very successful races, and I got into triathlon about 10 years ago. I always thought Nantucket would make a great venue for it. And you might recall back in the 80s, there was a whole series of triathlons that took place on Nantucket through first Winthrop, which then became Nantucket Island Resorts. But in any case, we started it 4 years ago, and the race has gotten extremely popular. And of course, the work that goes along with it has gotten exponentially more complicated. But it's been an amazing experience, to tell you the truth. It's really been an unbelievable experience.
Is there a circuit of triathlons, so a triathlete would go from place to place to place? There
are definitely some that do that. Before I got so busy trying to run this one, I would do about between 6 and 8 a year. So that was probably between May and September. So I would definitely do, the weekend thing where I travel to a race almost every weekend, all over the state, and even as far south as Maryland or other places.
Now, how is this triathlon? How are they regulated? Who regulates them? Sets the rules and all those kind of nice things.
Right. Well, this is a USAT certified, sanctioned event. So USAT is United States Triathlon. They're the governing body. There are two governing bodies, USAT and ITU, which is the International Triathlon Union. ITU races tend to be more overseas focused. USAT, obviously, here in the U.S. But they have a very strict series of rules. They provide the umbrella insurance policy for the event. They're obviously involved with the permitting process in terms of the type of event, the race course, the number of participants. They provide us with, I think we had 3, maybe even 4 officials on site during the race, whose job is to make sure it's being run safely and that there are penalties for people who don't follow the rules and that sort of stuff. So it's a highly regulated sport. It certainly is.
Now, are you a Pan American sport? Are you Olympic sport? How do you fit in the overall sporting world?
Well, triathlon is an Olympic sport now, so they do compete in the Olympic Games. I think that that's a fairly new. I'm not sure. It was definitely after 2000 that it became an Olympic sport, but certainly triathlon as a sport, both nationwide and worldwide, has exploded in popularity. Double-digit growth pretty much every year, and I think that's a function of the challenges that it presents, both physically and mentally, and also that particularly in America, I think there are a lot of athletes that were very active younger and have sort of refound their athleticism through something like triathlon, which can be competitive, but at the same time there's a camaraderie that goes along with the sport that seems to supersede a lot of the competitiveness with other athletes. It's sort of your own thing, and trying to get through the event.
Are they involved? Are the colleges involved in this? Do certain universities have triathlon teams?
Sure. In fact, I went and worked the collegiate nationals for USAT as their transition coordinator last April in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, just before the tornadoes took the place apart. And some of those guys are amazing athletes too. So there's certainly USAT works very hard, I think, from youth through adult, both age group and and professional ranks to improve the sport. So
you have professionals in the triathlon.
Yeah.
And how do you pay your professionals?
Well, we don't. So if a professional wants to come do our race, that's fine, but we don't pay them. They make their money on sponsorships and things like that. And there are certain triathlons that are very well known, as I'm sure you know, like the Ironman in Hawaii and things like that, where there are significant prize purses for professionals to win. We're not quite there yet. No, we're not quite there yet.
The next thing is there's been a lot of concern about disruption of the normal business of Nantucket.
Right.
How do you feel about this?
Well, obviously, you're talking about the road closures in particular, which we asked for last year, which is the first year we asked that the roads be closed for the event. And the reason we asked for that was it was purely a safety reason. With up to 1,000 or 950 athletes, it's simply not safe to have the roads open to traffic. I'm less concerned about it on the run portion, obviously, because cars would tend to pay more attention to those people and they can move out of the way, as I am on the bike course, where professional triathlete would average almost 30 miles an hour on the bike course and passing other riders, and there being multiple sort of lanes of people going. It just isn't safe. So I understand that it was an inconvenience for sure to some people on the island. The road closure itself turned out to be an hour and 20 minutes from Nantucket. Again, the thunderstorm that rolled through during the middle of the bike course probably made it less of an issue than it may have been. But I think that through the conversations I've had with all the town department heads and other people and taking people's input on the subject, we opted just to make a very early morning start to the race so that the race would essentially be off the roads by 8 a.m. And that seems to have satisfied most of the concerns that were raised.
Now let me get that back to asking you a question I should have asked in the beginning. Where do you do your swim, and when
Sure.
do you do your swim?
Okay, so swim start is at Jetty's Beach on the West Jetty, on the harbor side of the West Jetty.
Yeah.
So we basically do a rectangular course. It's out to a buoy, over to a buoy, and back to the beach. It's a quarter-mile swim, so an average athlete, what I would call an average athlete, would do that in about 9 or 10 minutes.
These are buoys outside of the channel.
That's correct.
It's to the west, toward Nantucket.
No, I'm sorry. It's to the east of the West Jetty. I said that wrong.
Yeah.
We did it to the west of the West Jetty the first year. There's not enough water on that side.
So you're going to do to the east?
We did it on the channel side. Yep.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, you'll be right in the channel. But what you don't realize is on the community sailing side, which is where we do it, there's more than enough room to do that quarter mile in a rectangle without even coming close to the channel. And Dave Franzuto and the Coast Guard all signed off on it because
so they block you off.
Yeah, they just give us an area. We actually ring the swim area with community sailing boats, harbor master, Coast Guard, and kayaks, so that nobody goes off course.
Yeah.
And then you keep them in that area, and it worked out real well.
Okay, then they come back in. Then what do they do?
So they run up the beach. They run through the path that's already through the dunes there to community sailing, and their bikes are staged in the tennis court area of the upper parking lot at Jetty's. So they will run into what we call the swim in, which is the back gate, and they will grab their bike, put their helmet on, and walk out onto Bathing Beach Road and head out on the bike course, which is essentially Jetty's to Nantucket and back. It's about 13.3, I think, miles. So it's basically out to Millie's, turn around right in the middle of the road, and come back. And once they rack their bike, they put their running shoes on and head out on the run. The run course is basically the Brant Point Runners Run that they do every night, every Tuesday night in the summertime. So you're running down Bathing Beach. You're going to run up Cliff Road, around Lincoln Circle, back down Cliff Road. Instead of finishing by the White Elephant, which is where Brant Point Runners finish, you're going to run all the way down to Holbert and then go down Holbert and finish back at Jetty's. And that's about 3.4 miles.
So you're going to disrupt Holbert Avenue.
Yes, incredibly so. What we have found actually, and I think this is probably part and parcel of just the Holbert area, we've had more people that come out on their lawns with hoses and things like that to cheer the athletes on in that last section.
Not to hose them away.
No, to cool them off. To
Really?
cool them off during the run, yeah. So the people down in Holbert and Brant Point have been amazing. They've been really very accommodating.
Because I had one call me up that wasn't going to be accommodating.
Well, we certainly have those too. Again, I'm hopeful that with the early morning start, we've assuaged most of those issues.
When would they finish the 3 legs?
So the winning time last year was 1 hour and 2 minutes. So somebody did the swim, bike, and run in 1 hour and 2 minutes. So it's pretty quick. An average athlete does it, I think we figured, in about 1 hour and 38 minutes.
Yeah.
We start those swim waves about every 2 to 3 minutes. So everybody's in the water probably by 10 of 7.
Yeah.
And then hopefully, obviously, the bulk of the race is off the road. Nantucket Road's going to reopen at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Last year when we reopened the road, there were still about half a dozen people on the bike course. But that's fine, as long as they're spread out enough that cars can get around them.
So you got a staggered start, and then as they finish, then you have to take all the 1,000 numbers down and get them right?
Well, we have, everybody has a chip on their ankle. So we have, this year, we're going to actually have GPS tracking. So the computer monitors where they are on the course throughout the race.
Go into the subway and cheat and come up.
That's right. If they pull the old Rosie Ruiz, we'll be able to catch them. That's right.
That's great.
And actually, family will be able to follow them as well, either on text or by phone. They can see where they're at.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a new feature that we're going to do this year.
I never heard about that when I was listening to you the other night.
Well, I try to give as much detail as I can. One of the interesting things, and I'm sure you'll appreciate this again as someone who's been involved with these events, and maybe one of the frustrations has been, I think I'm pretty well publicly associated with the event, but I get very few phone calls from people who ask me to explain certain things about it. So just to the extent that people are watching, just call me. I'll be happy to explain it to you. And if you have questions or concerns, I'm happy to address those too. I've tried to make myself as available as I can, but
you got to call you at your law office.
They can call me my law office. My cell phone's also on the website. My email's there.
Oh, okay. Because I was having trouble locating you yesterday.
Yeah. Well, you did?
Yes.
You found me.
Yeah, eventually.
Well, a lot of people are trying to kill me, so
well,
I can't make myself too available.
Well, we can put a contract out on you.
There's probably several.
Now, have I asked you enough?
No.
Well, tell me what I haven't asked you.
You're supposed to ask me why I do this.
Well, why do you do this?
Well, I do this, first of all, it's not for the money, because I don't get any money, so I want to be clear about that.
Guaranteed you get no kickbacks.
I don't get any money.
You're right.
My partner Bill gets money for providing the equipment and doing that sort of stuff, but
that's product.
That's product, and it's also, we have to rent things, we have to hire vendors, that kind of stuff, and Bill arranges all that stuff, and he actually works as a professional race director. All the net race proceeds that are left after the race are to be designated to the Town of Nantucket Scholarship Fund. That's what we've decided to do.
Except for your war chest.
Except for what we need to do the race. That's correct. So there's no checks making it to Jamie's pocket in this thing. As much as people, I think, would like to think that, I will say that, just so that I can throw some numbers out there, we donated $10,000 to the scholarship fund, which is more than they got all last year from anybody. We've designated another $10,000 by July 1, which would be the end of the fiscal year, so there'll be $20,000 there for the scholarship fund. And then going forward, we've committed $25 of every race entry fee to the Town of Nantucket Scholarship Fund.
What is the race entry fee?
Last year it was $95. We've bumped it to $115 this year to be able to take some of that money and specifically designate it to the scholarship fund.
What's your total budget?
The budget last year, I think, was about $86,000.
That's very reasonable.
Well, we do a lot of the work ourselves. Yeah, and I gotta tell you, and again, you will appreciate this. When I first got into this, I didn't really have any idea how complicated the logistics of an event like this really are. And I said it at the Selectmen's meeting the other night, and I'll say it again, that without the help, support, and guidance of the department heads of this town who make me think about certain things that I wouldn't have thought of or other things, it would be very difficult to accomplish an event like this. So I do want to give them another big thank you, because those guys have been amazing and very supportive of my efforts to move it through and keep it going.
They get a lot of practice with all of these other events that are going on.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So
they know what they're doing, and they're going to think of those things that you didn't think of,
right?
Which is important. But then you've got your list of all those things you didn't think of that you have to make sure you remember from year to year.
Now, do you pay the police for?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that comes out of your $80,000.
Yeah, I mean, I think the detail bill last year was about $15,000.
Yeah,
it was pretty But you have to have them on some of these intersections. You know, you have to have them. We had long discussions about certain intersections that don't need police officers and things like that. And I basically leave it to the police department to decide what's a critical intersection that you want manned or what isn't. We had tons of volunteers last year, which was great. We had over 80, which was awesome. We hope to continue to grow that as well.
Yeah. That seems like a small number of volunteers, frankly.
Well, remember, this is other than the spread out piece of Nantucket Road, it's a very confined event. It's fairly small in its footprint, which is good because once the bikes come back in, you're just in that core area down at Brant Point, finishing up. So we're able to cover a lot of ground with about 80 volunteers, which works out okay. I did bring you a present, by the way. I don't want to forget. We got you an official hat.
Oh my goodness!
And an official T-shirt.
Gee whiz!
Now I got you a double XL because I know you're big up top.
Yeah, it's just very, very
from all the lifting,
I'm
right?
a former shot putter.
That's right.
Not anymore. Okay, well, thank you very much, Jamie.
You're welcome.
And it's been a pleasure, and I've learned a lot.
Good.
A lot about
Can I just
your sport.
I'm going to remind people. July 21st is the date.
Yes.
It's a Saturday. 6:30 to 8 a.m. is the road closure to Nantucket. 6:30 to 8:30 is the road closure on Cliff Road, because as the bikes come back in, we sort of roll the event back from Nantucket Road. There'll be information on the website, acktry.com.
Right.
I will be reaching out to everybody on the race route and sending out mailings. If your address is different than what the tax assessor has, call me and let me know, because that's all we can go by, and some people send that stuff to their accountants or whatever it is. So.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to make sure that you've got the right address.
That's right.
Yeah.
But we want to do as much reach out as we can, and obviously, I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. We don't want this to be an event that people dread happening. We want people to come out and cheer people on and try it themselves and have family members that support it. So we hope that eventually people come around and really, really support and like the event.
Yeah, it'll grow.
Yeah.